Thank you very much. So I think Mikel gave a wonderful explanation about Barcelona. I was invited to talk here about future of finance, future of fintech. And just very briefly, as there was already a presentation about N26, I won't spend too much on N26. I will just reflect on our learnings. And I wanted to share with you that N26 is a pan-European bank that is expanding globally right now. So it's a global mobile bank. It's a new generation bank that is right now working with the same product all across Europe in 24 countries. So it's different to all the banks that we know, right? And what we're doing is we have a European license and we're based in Berlin, but we're also expanding here to Barcelona, and we are hiring very fast in Barcelona, our tech hub that we're growing here for the last 5 months, and we plan for over this year actually to grow up to 200 or 250 people in our new space. So just to jump to the future of finance, give me 2 seconds. All right. So I won't bore you with what you already know. Obviously, you've seen many industries already being transformed by new players, and that's the one thing that I really want to push, and I really want you to keep in your head, that is that it has not been the traditional players, the ones that have made any of these sectors being disrupted, right? It's been somebody new coming into the scene, really making the difference, right? We've seen music, Spotify. We've seen transport, it's been Uber. We've seen in entertainment, it could be Netflix, and in accommodation, Airbnb, right? So this is actually very interesting because we don't believe that the financial services are going to be disrupted by the banks, no matter how much they invest in digital transformation, right? They're not going to disrupt their own business. So when we talk about how do you disrupt a business, it's mostly about how do you go from unbundling. So really, we really understand the banks as the ones that do everything in the financial services, right? You will go to a bank and they will be able to offer you any service. And what we're realizing is that some fintechs are starting to do one thing better than the banks. Could be one fintech here, one fintech there, and that's what we call unbundling. There will be many different fintechs, and there already are many different fintechs, right, that are specializing in only one service. So when we look at where we are right now, we'll see that in payments, in lending, in personal finance, in deposits, in wealth management, and in insurance, there's already very big successful startups that have grown internationally, that have grown very, very strong, and that are already succeeded, right? And that are already a threat to the bank. And the future, actually, to make this disruption is when the rebundling happens. I think this is the case, for example, for Amazon, if you think about it. So Amazon was doing one thing, now they're doing so many things, right? So when some of these startups come together or start offering some of a large or wide offering of products, then we will see these bigger new players coming into really a proper disruption mode of the banking sector. And why is actually, so also if we think about those fintechs, which is very interesting, you'll see that most of the fintechs are dependent on banks. Most of the fintechs are just one layer on top of banks. They will give one service, but they're dependent on banks. So what we see is that what needs to be disrupted is the banks. It's not just it's not only the financial services, but it's really shifting the banks, right? And what we believe is that it's taken longer than to transform or to disrupt the banking industry because it's actually very, very difficult. And this is the last sector that needs to go through this disruption. And why is it that difficult? It's because of capital intensity. It's because of its complexity. It's because of licenses and barriers to entry. It's not just about being a regulated market that you get a license. It's also the ongoing regulatory requirements that you have to commit to and all the reporting required, right? Which obviously it's cost heavy. And then there's like the trust. So all these topics you can solve in different ways, right? So with capital it's very clear, with investment you can solve it. With complexity you can simplify your value proposition and make it easier. You can obtain a license and you can make your processes more efficient. I want to really focus on the trust piece because the trust piece I think is the one thing that fintechs need to focus on to actually make that step change to become a larger player. And when we think about trust is how do we build trust? And there's many ways to understand trust and to see how you can actually build a trust as a company, there is, first of all, it's a process that needs time, right? It's a process that it doesn't happen from one day to the other, right? You need to actually acknowledge or recognize the brand as something that you've heard several times. This is not happens when there's one recommendation coming through. But the very interesting thing is that there's a formula, or at least in N26, we'll look at it through a formula. It's not our formula. It's a well-known formula. You can Google it, and it's based on these 4 factors. When you look at trustworthiness, we're looking at credibility, we're looking at reliability and intimacy, and it's divided by self-orientation. I'll explain it a bit later, but I'll go into it or how we see it for N26 or for the banking market, right? So credibility, first of all, is you need to be able to offer a transparent and fair product. Right now, what we're seeing is that banks are somehow charging hidden fees, right? So for us, what we really want to do is be transparent on what we charge for and basically the pricing structure and what customers should expect from that cost, right? And not just surprising customers with unexpected fees. The second piece is reliability. So the service needs to be stable and reachable at all times. We believe that everything can be done through the mobile, and we can give a perfect 24/7 service in the mobile phone. That's the future, right? It's not like queuing on branches, or it's not like really waiting or waiting on the phone for ages. It's really about being a real-time solution on your phone with one click. So that's what we believe is the future also, and that's reliability part, that you can always reach your bank immediately when you need it. And then there's the intimacy part. There's the safety and security about data. So that's something that obviously all fintechs are working hard on. How do you protect the data of your customer, and how is that intimacy built, and that also that intimacy related to trust. But then the last point that I think is most relevant is what you divided it from. So those 3 things together are divided by self-orientation. And what do we call self-orientation? Self-orientation is what's in it for you? It's like, are you caring about what you're making or what you're getting out of it, or are you taking care about the person that you're serving or the person that you have in front of you? So it's about that customer experience. It's about really giving the customer what it needs, right? We believe that banks, traditional banks, are very much focused on making their own money or giving dividends to their shareholders, but they're not really caring about the customer. They're not really giving what the customer is looking for. So if you become a customer-centric company, if you're really solving the problems of the customer, you will be able to earn their trust. And I think that's one of the things that traditional banks are going to find extremely difficult to solve, because what we know is that nobody loves their traditional bank. Nobody feels that the traditional bank is doing something for them, and that's I think the key. So I would like to just go through N26. This is just like a space slide. I would like to go through N26 specific things that we've done internally, or how do we understand the bank internally, and also some things that we've done externally. So this is our vision. We're building the bank the world loves to use, right? And we're really much focused on that customer, as we said. And I'm going to go through the four values that you will be able to connect with the traditional banks and think I would ask you to think if actually you think your traditional bank is thinking this way on how they do business. So we're offering a simple promise, right? So we're offering a new approach to banking, something that is a new brand, it's a new concept, it's a different way to understand banking. We're offering the best digital experience so that customers can do everything in a very simple way and easy way through their mobile phone. And we're offering the basic product for free, right? You could then start charge for premium services. You can you can charge for certain things, but we understand that we can obviously give a much better price also if you reduce your cost base. So going to our values, it's simplicity. It's how we simplify banking. It's how we actually not try to offer all kind of products to the customer, but only the ones that they really need. Then it's drive. It's like being bold and move fast, but it's also about being ahead of the curve, being able to change and adapt, and always provide the best technology available in the market, not just stay with old, outdated technology and potentially, yeah, some bad experience for the customer there. And it's also about striving for excellence. It's giving the best product out there. It's making sure that you can give the best solution or partner with the right guys to give that best solution. And at the end is doing things right. At the end is doing the things that really made us proud, but also makes the customer proud of being part of this bank or the future bank, right? So in our case, it's N26. So I'll just go very quickly through some advertising that you might be able to see on the tube station. Actually, when you get out of here, there's some very nice advertising that we're doing, but it's just like, I mean, if you look at this is not how a traditional bank would advertise, right? I mean, a tattoo of N26, the bank you'll love. I wouldn't expect that. Also, banking this smooth, right? Or just like banking this fast, right? It's all about it's all about also linking to the emotions of a customer and trying to show another way of understanding banking. And this is my favorite one. So I don't know, I just put it there because it's really, in English, it's no hidden fees. It's like really transparency. Transparency is key on everything we do. Very clear, and then just to finalize on the product, and so you can understand a bit what we've been through and what we're doing right now, is we've been successful not because we had one product or because we built one feature in our product, it's because we're continuously doing things that make the difference. We started 4 years ago with paperless account opening. So really, just with downloading a mobile app, you can open a bank account. 5 years ago, no other bank was doing this. I mean, this is something that now is very common. Then we also did what we call banking everywhere, that you can get in real time all notifications through a push app. Maybe some banks in the past were doing it with SMEs. Some are still doing it with SMEs, actually. But we believe in really connecting or engaging more with the customer by giving them the right information at the right time when they're making a payment. And actually, we were the first ones to adapt and adopt Google Pay and Apple Pay in many of our markets, or the first or second ones. And I think this is very relevant because when we see new players coming into the market that are offering value to the customers, the traditional players are actually reluctant to allow these players to come in. So you see that, the biggest banks actually were not actually integrating these services, maybe because they took some time, but also because obviously there's some intermediaries that are taking part of their fees, right? So they don't allow others to come into their space. This actually, being the first ones to implement Apple Pay and Google Pay with the phone or with the watch, was one of the things that made us grow massively. And as we see this development from other technology companies or other third parties or new startups, we have to actually be able to implement this and adopt this. So the ones that accept the new technology are the ones that are going to win the battle. It's not the biggest ones that are going to try and stop this technology disruption, right? So another thing that we're doing right now that I think is extremely interesting is like making sure we change that customer understanding of how bank works and how you can control your money much better and organize your finances through the same experience you would have maybe on Spotify or you would have in WhatsApp. I mean, you open a WhatsApp group to share experiences with a group of friends. You can also open a space to share some money or to put some money aside for some savings or for a trip that you're going to do or for whatever, right? So I think we're putting together the best know-how and the best, most advanced customer experience of all the other mobile companies into the banking system. And just to wrap up, I wanted to add that on our premium services, we're much more than a bank. We're adding additional services that our customers also appreciate and benefit from. So I hope that was interesting for you, and I hope you stay for the panel a bit later. Thank you very much.